right, let's go find Dita. Hey guys. Okay, she must be out here somewhere. Look at this place. Can you see why I come here instead of the grocery store? Hey Dita.
Hey.
Came for apples. Look, we have matching baskets.
Næsten.
Oh, what a gorgeous day.
Ja.
What do you got there?
Hindbær. Skal der have nogen med?
Ja, tak.
Jeg plukkede ikke nogen i går, så der er simpelthen så mange.
Wow.
Så mange.
Oh,
Er de gode?
warm from the sun. It's amazing.
Skal vi gå ned og finde nogle æbler?
Ja, tak. Oh, butterflies on the borage. I can't remember what you call that.
Julekrone.
Julekrone.
Eller agurkeurt.
Agurkeurt. Okay.
Der er nogen, der siger, de smager som agurk.
Apple cheese.
Kom så.
Zorro. He's like, no, I would prefer to jump over the gate, please.
Ja. Her.
They're gorgeous. And look at all the butterflies. So are these good? This one?
Ja, altså det gør ikke noget, der er lidt småskader på, bare der ikke er direkte hul ind.
The last apple pie were your apples too, and it was perfect, delicious. Let's see. Ah, there's a good one right here. Here. Oh. Ah, perfect. Do butterflies get drunk?
Ja.
What do butterflies do when they get drunk? Coming here is so much better than going to the grocery store.
Kan du tage imod dem her?
Ja, ja.
Bare læg dem ned til æblerne der.
This is more than enough.
Ja, så ses vi bare senere.
Ja, det gør vi.
Hej.
Hej. Okay, great. So we're back from Dita's with our beautiful apples. Her apples are so delicious. I've made one pie with them before, and it was fantastic. One of the best I've ever made. I'm gonna use about 6 to 8 apples, depending on their size and how full of filling I want my pie to be that day, whatever my mood might be. Before we start cutting up the apples, we're gonna get our dough ready. It's really important that the butter stays very cold through the process, because we're not gonna actually blend it 100% into the flour. We're going to leave little pockets of butter. And if it's too soft, then it's gonna melt and kind of ruin that end result where you want a little bit of flakiness to your pie crust. Before we start our apples, we're gonna go ahead and get our dough ready to go. What we have in this bowl right here is 350 grams of KML, and it's really important that you use KML, and I know that you can get it at a couple of different shops in Denmark. So this is KML, and what's great about it is it has a lower gluten content, and what that means is that it's going to be less chewy as a final result. Like if you're making Italian bread or some bread that you want to have a real elastic crust to it, you're going to want to use a high gluten flour. This is low because we want our result to be flaky and crispy with those little pockets of butter that I was talking about in it. So we've got low gluten flour, and in it I've mixed a little bit of salt, 1 teaspoon, and then 2 teaspoons of sugar. And we're gonna go ahead and add it to our 350 grams of butter. I've pre-cut this butter in smallish cubes. You can see here, it's gonna make my work a little bit easier with this little tool that I'm gonna show you here in a second, because you will get a little bit of exercise making this. We've got 260 grams of butter, and we're gonna go ahead and just dump that in there. We might need a little help. And I'm just gonna dump in, I don't know, half. Half is good. A little bit more than half. Some people squeeze the butter in by hand and mix it into the flour, but I find that the warmth of your fingers melts the butter a little bit too much. So this is really great because it doesn't hold any warmth at all. This is a miracle worker for pie. Smash it down directly in, and you can start to see the process where the butter is just sort of being cut into the dough. My grandmother was the queen of pie crust. Pie crust has this reputation in the United States for being really difficult to do. And after I moved to Europe, about 3 or 4 years after I got here, I decided, well, there were so many foods from home that I really, really missed. And I was thinking about my grandma's pie, and I thought, I'm gonna make a pie. So I got online and I was researching about how to make the perfect pie. There must be some science about this, especially the crust. That's the most important part. And I found lots of different recipes, but the one that really intrigued me the most was Cooks Illustrated. It's a magazine and it's science-based cooking. And they were talking about this gluten thing that I was mentioning. What they found was that when gluten comes in contact with water is what creates the chewiness of the bread, which you don't want in pie. So they said, well, what is like water but isn't? And they thought, vodka. So instead of doing 100 deciliters of water, we're gonna put half vodka and half water. So you can see I've gotten the butter fairly worked into the flour, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of it now, and you can see here and there's still some solid chunks of butter. So here goes the rest. Like that. We have a nephew that spends a lot of time, sometimes months, with us in the summer. And when I first started deciding that I wanted to make pies, he was my guinea pig. And when I started making the crust with vodka, it was really when he wanted to visit us a lot more often. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this now, and I'm just gonna show you what this texture looks like. This is right before I'm gonna add the water and the vodka. Gonna sprinkle this around. And then comes the vodka. Don't worry, the vodka cooks off. You won't have any alcohol content left in your pie when you're done, unless you want that sort of thing. So now we'll just work it a little bit again with our tool. Doesn't need to be completely uniform, just so that the loose flour bits have been worked into the dough mostly. That's good enough. This is about the result that you're going to want it to look like. So what it needs to do now is have that butter cool down so that it's really cold when you start rolling it out. It'll also make it a little bit less sticky on the counter. So I will grab some foil, take it up into one large ball, set it onto your foil or your plastic wrap. And you can do it with a knife or a pasta cutting tool or something like that, but I'm just gonna squeeze it almost in half. We want one side to be slightly larger than the other. And then take your plastic wrap and then just go ahead and roll it over so they're separate. And then we're gonna pop it in the fridge while we do the apples. Probably want to leave it in there for at least half an hour. Let's start with the apples. Just take a regular peeler. You can get as creative as you want taking this. Sometimes I try to see if I can get the whole apple in one string. Gotta make it fun. Oh. And you can worry about the stem and the other part of it a little bit later. We're gonna take out the core. Now we're gonna cut them in half and then a quarter again. Like that. So now we have them in quarters. we're going to go ahead and just cut that little bit of skin that's still left on the end. Take another little wedge there. Set that aside, and then just repeat with all the rest of them. Now that we've got all the apples peeled, we're going to make little apple boats. Take a little apple like this, one of the pieces that you've prepared. Take a slice like that. I don't know, is that a centimeter? A little bit less. And then just roll it forward with your fingers like this until you've got, I don't know, 4 or 5 little slices from each quarter that you've made. They don't all have to be perfect sizes, but you want them to be thin enough that they're gonna soften and cook in the oven, but not so thin that they're gonna turn into, what is it called in Danish? Æblemus. Now we're going to add the mixture that I have put together, which is 120 grams sugar, 120 grams brune farine, and a 1/4 teaspoon of muscatnut, which is called, I can't remember what it's called in English. I guess that's a good sign. Got our apples here ready to go. They're so beautiful. Take 2 fresh spoons, and we'll take this mixture and just pour it right over the top. So dig deep into the bowl and just lift, and it'll all work itself out. These will stand for 15 or 20 minutes while you're working on your dough. It'll get a little bit watery on the bottom as the apples release juice. Ah, it smells so good. Set that aside while we work on our dough. So this is the very messy part, and no matter how careful I am, I always get covered in flour when I do this part. So I'm gonna take this. That was my dad's. I brought it home with me last summer. We're going to spread a good amount of this KML on our clean counter. Leave a little pile up there in reserve. And we're going to go get the slightly larger half of the dough that we put in the fridge a little while ago. Now that we've got our apples ready, we're going to go ahead and start with our larger piece of dough. This is going to be the bottom part of that fills the actual terraform itself. So we'll flatten it out a little bit, get our rolling pin, give that a little bit of a dusting. We want something sort of roundish, but we'll be cutting off the extra part of it and using it for something else to finish the pie. I like to turn it over after a few rolls because then it starts to stick to the counter a little bit, so you want to just respread your flour a little bit. Keep in mind the size of your terraform. You want it to be a little bit bigger than that so it drapes over the sides a little bit. You want to very carefully just drape this over your hand. Move pretty quickly because your hand is warm and you don't want to let the butter warm up too much. Just drape loosely like this. You don't want to push because you'll make a hole, and that will make it really hard to serve your pie once it's done. Gently touch it in there. Then I need to get my handy kitchen scissors, and we'll just go around the edge and cut off this excess dough, leaving about, I don't know, 1 to 2 centimeters, and set this aside because we're going to use it later. Now it's ready to have the filling added. So this is our apple mix from earlier. You can see that it's really gotten a bit liquidy in there, which is what we want. So we'll just give it a little stir again. All the sugars have dissolved, and we'll just pour it in. And then just take your hands and fill it in. These little apple slices can create little air pockets, so I just like to arrange them in there. It doesn't need to be pretty because it's not going to be something you see with your end result, but a little bit thicker in the middle. We set this aside and we get our second piece of dough that we put into the fridge a little bit earlier. This piece is the top. Same, just give it a little squish to make it a bit flat. Flour up your rolling pin and do the same thing. It's going to be a bit smaller this time because it doesn't have to fold into the edges of the terraform itself. You do want it as round as possible. And I will say that's perfect. Same thing, just roll it onto your hand. And then gently try to center it onto your pie here. And that looks good. We'll take the scissors again. Take off this excess. Now comes the part that takes a little bit of practice. We're going to squeeze these edges together, and if you don't squeeze them together well enough, you're going to get that apple juice leaking out into the bottom of your oven, creating a giant black smoke that you can't get out of your oven ever again, and then everything you bake from then on is going to taste like burnt apple pie. Take your hands and you pinch and turn your right hand a little bit toward yourself while you're closing up this seam. And then you put your thumb where your previous one was and bend it over like this. Just continue around. So now our pie is sealed, and we will cut some air vents in it so that the moisture as it's cooking has a chance to escape. Otherwise you're going to end up with a really watery pie, and you don't want that. So we'll just take a knife, find middle, and we'll just say that's middle right there. And then leaving about, I don't know, 10 centimeters on either side. Just go ahead and cut all the way through. You don't have to be careful of the apples because they're just going to cook anyway. Make a nice little opening. Then come to the other side. Do the same. And this also dictates your pie slice sizes, because this will be 8 slices. If you want to make 10 or a little bit more than that, you can change how you put these in. And now comes the fun part. We'll set this aside, and we're going to pick up these pieces that we cut off earlier and make a decoration for the top of the pie. I traditionally make leaves because I think they look pretty, and they're also really, really easy. You can see this is already sort of leaf shaped here. So I just pinch the ends where it might have a stem. Don't be scared to do it because it's going to bake and it will naturally sort of swell up. So and I'll just make a little point there. And then just, I guess they kind of look like feathers as well, if you like. Just like this. Leaf. I'll make 1 leaf for every single slice. 1 last leaf. And now it's ready to go in the oven. So there is a chance that the top of your pie is gonna get a little bit too brown around the edges. So in the beginning, I always take a couple of pieces of foil and just make a little, I don't know, little hat. And just gently, without putting too much pressure on your pie itself, just make a little tent around the edges. And we'll be taking it off about halfway through cooking. Now it's ready. The pie's been in the oven for almost an hour now, 15 minutes on 230. Then I took off the foil protector, and it's been in at about 45 minutes on 175. So it's time to take it out. It's getting nice and golden. There she is. It'll sit on this drying or cooling rack for good 2 hours before the liquid starts to gel and get a little bit more solid, and then it's going to be ready to eat with vanilla ice cream.